Welcome to the third episode of Series 86, everyone. This month we have returning guest Allison K to learn about her online live-action RPG called Strangers on the Net. In today's episode, we talk about the business side of TTRPGs with Allison, as well as start to get into our thoughts on how the character creation process went for this game. But before we get to that, we do have some calls to action coming up after the show. Here's what to expect. You can join me here after the show, where we will have more information about a change in our next stream date on the One Shot Twitch channel, as well as information on our Patreon, how to leave a review for the show, and our patron thank yous as well. With all of that out of the way, enjoy the show, everyone.
Welcome back to our discussion episodes. Last time we finished our session 0 for our Strangers on the Net characters. This episode we are going to discuss the character creation process. We're excited to welcome back Allison K. creator of Strangers on the Net. Do you want to reintroduce yourself for everyone at home, and then please tell us about the multiple levels of characters that you made?
All right. Yes, sounds like a task. So hi, everyone. Allison K. I make games with Gal Pal Games and Soft Chaos, and this game is a game made by Soft Chaos that we're currently crowdfunding. And in our last episode, I made a character that is an 18-year-old girl named Kaylee who lives in a small town in Canada, but has confusing feelings about the fact that she has started to have crushes on girls in real life. And so goes to a fan forum. I have to pull up the name of our anime. Goes to a fan forum for the fictional anime of Relic's Return. Does someone have the full?
Oh yeah, it's One Relic. Return to Righteousness.
So it goes to the One Relic Return to Righteousness fan forum and pretends to be a 17-year-old guy from Germany so that she can flirt with all these girls. And she plays one of the Acid Boys, which is the villain team of the fictional magical girl necromancer anime that we created. And so I think that's the quickest summary I can give of my character.
Yeah, I think that was pretty straightforward, honestly.
Yeah, and we didn't get into the character handles for the online
Please
forums
tell us,
in our last
handle?
episodes.
Because we forgot to say them last time.
Her handle, and it's in Leet, for those of them not from the 90s, Leet is just, you replace a lot of numbers with letters with numbers and it looks cool. But it's destined _ the number 4 _ love. So destined for love, but all in Leet.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
Perfect.
I love that.
Ryan, why don't you tell us about your characters?
Okay, so I made the character Sarah Crawford from the small town of Appleton, Wisconsin, born and raised, 17-year-old young woman that is masquerading online as a 17-year-old young woman from the Midwest who goes by XX Aria Storm XX, which the X's are normally not pronounced, but they look cool, so why not?
Is it lowercase, uppercase X?
Yes.
Okay.
It's and then uppercase, lowercase on it, so it's like
so it's a little
towering towards the name.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%.
Sure. Obviously.
Mm-hmm. And Sarah Crawford plays the incomparable Tetrarch Osciles, the nerdy smart one of the magical girl group from the One Relic Return to Righteousness anime series. She is kind of the strategist and the person that effectively feeds information to the leader of the group. And she was the quiet one and missed out on friendships her whole life until she found that she was a part of this whole magical girl, like reincarnated effectively group that came here after some sort of disaster on their last world. And she is on this forum because she wants friends. She just wants people to be friends because she has no friends in real life. So Sarah is like desperately seeking like real true friendships amongst people within this fandom that she loves so much.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So Amelia, tell us about your character.
Sure. I made Sarah with an H, Coolidge. My handle is Dark Rose Sacrum 01 because obviously it's one relic.
Oh, nice.
So that's really important, the 01. And it's edgy AF. In real life, Sarah with an H is 16 and a half, and she is from Racine, Wisconsin. But online, she pretends to be 17 and from Chicago because that just sounds much cooler. That 5 months and 23 days, I think I said, is really important. It just makes you seem so much older and cooler. And yeah, Sarah is one of the creators of this little online forum. And, she just really wanted to be able to play someone kind of powerful and confident. So she chose to play Sacrum, who is the chosen one of this magical girl group in this anime. And, she wants to have good friends, and she just like wants people to know who she is and to be important. Like that's a thing that she doesn't feel in her real life. And so she just wants to play that out online. And, if she makes some friends and falls in love, that's awesome too. But probably will fall in love with boys because that's what you do. And like girls just, are girls, and all girls are really in love with each other. That's like totally normal.
Relatable.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, let's go ahead and dive right into a segment that we are calling D20 for your thoughts.
D20 for your thoughts?
So in this segment, we talk to our guests about their thoughts on the character creation process, how it relates to this system, other games you played, all of that kind of stuff. But first, we have had you on the show before, so we don't get to ask you the cliche question. We had to think of a different question. So let's go a little further. Given that you have experience in both tabletop role-playing games and LARP, how do you think the different mediums influence your approach to character creation? And then kind of what aspects do you feel like are more important for live action versus tabletop, all of that kind of stuff?
So I think this is a fascinating question. I had to like read it and talk it over with my wife and other people I design with to be like, wow, this is really interesting. And it made me think about my own practice, which I love. So to say strangers, we don't like publicly call it a LARP a lot, but it is very LARP-like, right? Because you are real-time playing, you're embodied. And even though being embodied, you're just sitting at a computer, like your character is just sitting at a computer. So you are like literally doing what your character is doing.
Yeah.
And so
I think this went really interestingly, and maybe we'll get into it more later too, but like it does kind of straddle that line because a lot of us have done play by post tabletop RPGs too. And, but we've also done kind of play by post, fanfic sort of things too. So like this kind of sits in an interesting in-between spot.
Yeah, I like to say you're like LARPing role playing. It's like you're LARPing someone you're LARPing a 16-year-old who is role playing. And so what that really influenced for the character creation of like in this game in particular, and I'm not going to say for all LARPs or for all TTRPGs because goodness knows you can't, but is the lack of abstraction of time. So that's one of the things that always like baffles me about like D&D. You're like, oh, I spend 4 hours and I did like a 5-minute combat. So you have the ability to abstract out time to stretch so long. In this game, like a minute is a minute, and what you can type in a minute and do in a minute is what happens. And so you can't really stop and do stat checks or like do these sorts of things. So really important in the character creation is giving players things to do always and like narrative ways to resolve them that they don't need a GM to come check on. So it ends up being this experience that people can play kind of independent of the facilitators. The facilitators watch over everything, but it has to be done in a way that everyone can be having fun playing on their own in these unsupervised ways without stopping.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is like often in TTRPGs, you're around a table and like someone is saying what they're doing and everyone is watching. But in this kind of like straddling position, everyone is always doing. So you never stop and watch someone. And if you do, you often do it in character, right? Like I would watch Sarah with an H and Sarah without an H do a scene, and I would be like gossiping about it in the background, right? So you have to design characters in a way where they always have something interesting to do, even while other people are the focus, and that they can be the focus. And when they are, they give other people interesting things to do.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too, like what things are important to flesh out and give names or ideas to. Because it's like, I've definitely played games that don't have like stats necessarily.
Yeah.
But this one is like, it's very broad strokes. Like the things that we've determined about our characters are like very broad, like kind of moody, vague sort of things, instead of being like, this is, we haven't really established like, how does your character do things? Which I think is something that becomes really central in a lot of character creation, is like not so much who you are, but like, how does your character do the things that they do? Right. And that is not at all what this is. This is much more about like general vibes.
No, and I think this is where we do lean into like your LARPing role playing as an aspect. Like, how does your character do things the way you would do them in the 90s? Like I type on a keyboard and I gossip and I flirt. And I think the setting also does a lot of work, which is why we put all those resources about like, here's reading what it's like to be alive in the 90s, which makes me feel so old that we put resources in about that. The setting helps. And it's like, what can you do? I can type. I don't have to skill check. I put in a bunch of typos on purpose or by mistake, and people judge me on them because that's what they would have done. So I think leaning into that design practice has been really fun in this, and also doing it in a way that does seem approachable to people who would normally be terrified of the word LARP, right? They're like, oh no, not me. And I'm like, oh, but all you're doing is play by post and then gossiping about that play by post as if you were a teenager trying to get someone you have a crush on to ask you out. Like, you can do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is interesting, because I've heard some friends talk about, the LARP experience and whatnot. And a lot of it isn't mechanics based. It's a lot of, here's your prompts. Here's like some stuff that you like might need to know about your character going into these scenes. But then it's all on you to just be like, now I'm this character, not I am playing what's on my sheet, right? And becoming part of that as an experience is a huge differentiator between what a LARP can be and what a tabletop role-playing game can be.
Yeah, we had there were 2 LARPs that were coming out about the same time we were designing this that were like really cool. One was like an inspiration for it, and one just was designed in parallel, and we loved it. And one was a LARP where do you remember the Netflix show The Circle?
I know of it. I never watched it, but
it's a LARP where you do the circle. The circle is you sit in a room and you're just on social media. That's essentially what the show is, catfishing other people. And so it was LARP that did that. So you could like literally and bodily do that, and it isn't intimidating. And then the other one, this one will probably be more broadly accessible, is called Longtime Listener, Last Time Caller. And it is a game where you LARP as someone listening to a radio program and calling into that radio program. And so you're doing that thing, but a lot of your actions are natural because like you know what it is to call into a radio program. Yeah. And you know what it is to sit and listen to a radio program. So it's really interesting to take actions that people are comfortable doing and then design around them. And the other thing we do is we do tell facilitators to, I believe, stir the pot is what we tell them to do. So if someone isn't engaging or isn't enjoying, you like drop them a piece of gossip that you think will happen. And so it's not like statistically structured, but it is very like narratively in plot advancing structures. You're like, because as a facilitator, you have a lot of the information. You're like, I know Sarah without an H has a crush on Sarah with an H. So I'm going to do something that will purposely provoke that.
Mhm.
And so designing those opportunities in, which is also why I love mapping out all the relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting too, like in, like introducing people to LARP too, that like a lot of,
Mhm.
sort of the like mainstream media, air quotes, like visuals that you get of LARP are like, people like fully dressed up in cosplay, like out in a park, playing
Mhm.
like live action D&D or something like that. And so like the idea of like
Yeah.
just being like, oh, I'm gonna LARP a thing that like I totally used to do,
Mhm.
is like an interesting stepping stone to me.
Yeah.
Like a
Because it's
very
more of
low
a
barrier
social
to
LARP,
entry.
right?
Yeah.
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 And like
Because there's a lot of combat focused LARPs out there, right? And
Oh, yeah.
that's perfectly valid and fun and everything. But then there's a lot of also just pure social
for
LARPs
sure.
out there as well.
For sure. Yeah, there's I think it's like tabletop role playing game, right? Like there is something for everybody out there.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is like a just very interesting like kind of branching off point in that like play by post feels very tabletop role playing game to me,
Yeah.
but like this is like I'm playing a person playing a play by post, like
Uh-huh.
like
Yeah.
where exactly are we branching off?
Mhm.
That's also like to be like successful as a crowdfunding campaign, we want to appeal to people, and for like the word LARP is scary.
Right.
And it's so weird that when you change what you call something, people are interested in different ways. Where I'm like, oh, this is just like recreating your experience in the 90s. And people are like, yeah, I'd love that. And I'm like, LARP. And they're like, no, I can't do it.
Yeah.
So I think this really is probably the thing that I've designed that has ever been the closest to. It'd be like, I guess the alternative this would be like, oh, you're role playing someone who's playing D&D. So imagine if you went to a game in character as a human who was going to sit down and play a game of D&D,
Right.
but the person playing the D&D was a character you were playing. That's like the modern tabletop version of that I can see.
Right. Right. Yeah. You've just added like an extra like level above what people normally do. Yeah.
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 Or like you RP as your characters playing role playing games in your session.
Exactly.
Just super meta.
Mhm.
Amazing. One of the other things I wanted to know is, Allison, what is one common pitfall that you see in TTRPG character creation specifically that you like to avoid either as like a player or as a designer?
So I'm going to reframe and censor a pitfall, personal pet peeve or personal preference.
Yes.
Because I believe there's a character creation for everyone.
Absolutely.
But I personally am less of a math stats person. I know people love doing this, but if I can look at a sheet and min-max it and my min-maxed character would be less fun to play than like a suboptimal character, I'm always like a little annoyed because then I have to make the decision like, do I want to play the best character or do I want to play the most fun character? And I will always pick the most fun character.
Yeah.
And again, we
actually had a lot of discussion about that last month because we did like a crunchier kind of game.
Yeah.
But like based on like old Palladium games, and I was sort of lamenting the fact that in some crunchier games, like depending on how it's balanced and stuff, there's the potential that there are objectively quote unquote right answers in playing a character, and like how frustrating I find that because like, it's like if you don't do that, like you're not going to be as good or like potentially have as much fun or get to do as much. And I find that really frustrating.
Yeah, it's like you're trading off different versions of fun. Like I can play the most powerful character that will have the most fun combats, but I'm not going to get the most fun role player story time. But that's my... Right. I think it's a design challenge as a designer. If I'm designing that type of game, I have to really think about what am I rewarding and motivating in terms of that design.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like the question too is like, if, do you make it so that there's a variety of choices and each has a place in the game, but that place is like a different place? Or do you find the balance in like, everybody has to make characters that are combat focused, but different types of combat and I think, that comes back to like different things are fun for different people. And there definitely are people who find like min-maxing things and finding like that perfect combination of skills and traits. And like for some people, that solving that puzzle is so much fun for them. And like, that's awesome.
And then playing that solved puzzle is also fun for them.
Right. And I think what gets me, like the thing I have a hard time with is not even that. It's like when a game is poorly designed to the point where there is a right way to do it, where it's like, if I make this choice at this point, it will always grant me the most options or like the most benefit down the line.
This is not just in TTRPG. So my day job is in video games, and I'm not going to say which, but a game I worked on released a mode that was by far by fans received as the most fun mode to play, but it didn't reward them like with in-game currency as much as the not fun version. No one played everyone played the not fun version. They were writing posts about how fun and great this mode was, but like it wasn't. They're min-maxing their characters. They have to play the bad mode, and I'm like, that's wild to me. Yeah, I don't want to have to pick the unfun choice just because it like will let me level up later or, you know, like it unlocks something later on. That is always frustrating to me. And, you know, I think good games kind of are able to balance, you know, like, oh, you're not good in this area, but you are really good in this area. So it makes up for it. Or, you know, like, because different people enjoy different things. Like, it's a skill I, as a designer, don't think I have, is making a crunchy game that doesn't end up like that. And my focus is on, like, the intimate LARP or, like, narrative tabletop. So I haven't had as much practice. But I really respect that skill when it's done right. And I'm like, it's so hard to not have that fall out of balance. Yeah. No, the crunchier a game is, like, definitely the harder it is to balance, I think. And, like, props to the people that can do that and figure that out. Because I'm not one of them. I'm okay with that. Like, I know that about myself. That's...
Oh, yeah.
No. Just pitching that's math thing flying across the screen again. Exactly.
The more you know.
Okay, so we have this question here about, like, character sheets, but this game doesn't really use character sheets. So can I... Brian, would you be okay if I kind of ask my co-op question here instead?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do it.
All right. So you haven't had time to prep for this one, so I'm sorry.
I'm on the spot.
Good. Because normally we do talk about like character sheets and character sheet design and layout and that kind of stuff, which isn't something that this game utilizes in the way that we would normally talk about it. So what I actually want to talk about here instead, you know, for our listeners who obviously are following along with our usual outline at home, I don't know why I prefaced this with what we normally ask, but, you know, one thing that you mentioned back in our, you know, the beginning of our episodes, you talked about like having co-op grants and, you know, like developing this game with a co-op and things like that, which is not what we usually hear. We do have a lot of like solo designers or, you know, people that are on like a 2-person design team or something like that. So I'm really curious about the process of this game and, you know, like getting grant funding and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. So it's still a small team. We're a 3-person worker cooperative, but it actually is people's day job. We are slowly growing. So right now, of the 3 of us, like of 3 people, we have enough salary for 2 full-time salaries. So that's where we are. But it is something that we do client work, we do contract work. And then occasionally when we are blessed and lucky, we use that money to supplement working on our own creative passions. And so that's kind of, this game is actually why my co-op founded, because we were making this game and we had applied to go to this theater festival and they had a stipend. And they're like, because they had an arts grant, and they're like, we will pay everyone who premieres their show at our theater festival. It wasn't like giant. It was maybe $3,000-$4,000 Canadian. So you know, that conversion rate.
Big money.
And we were like, oh my God, we need a bank account and maybe we should make a co-op because of this. But that's how we started doing it. And then because that theater festival was an arts grant, we ran it. We got good critical acclaim. Like I said, we were mentioned at CBC Arts. And so people saw that. And we were able to apply for another small grant. There's an organization called Pixels, which supports marginalized folks making games, marginalized genders, folks with marginalized genders making games. And so they had a tiny grant. And they're like, if you have a game that has started and you need help finishing it, you can apply. And so we were like, we have this beautiful thing that we care about. Can we make it a physical thing? And they said, sure. And so we got a grant for that. I feel like I'm also saying things that might be unrelatable to American listeners. So I'm so sorry
I
about
think that there
that.
probably are like, certainly that's not something that our government is doing, but I'm sure that there are like organizations out there that do that kind of thing. And, I know that certain conventions and it's like Origins or I don't know, there's like
there's some conventions
some
out
conventions
there that
have
I
like
think
grants and
Big
things
Bad
like
Con
that
has
too.
some too.
Yeah, keep your eyes
certainly our
open for
government
that.
isn't doing it, but I don't know, maybe certain states have stuff like that too, depending on what state you're in.
Yeah.
You might.
And then the other big support we got for this, and we could only get it because we are an incorporated co-op. I could go on a long time about co-op models, but like incorporating helped us a lot, is that we got sponsored through like grants and government and a university nearby. We were able to have an intern for an entire summer at our co-op, and salary was completely paid. And
That's
we
really cool.
were like, you're a very talented artist. For the whole summer, just do the art for this game. And so
Very
we were
cool.
able to have someone come and do the art for the whole summer as part of a program, again, to help marginalized students. I think this one was specifically queer students. I don't remember the program exactly, get game experience. And so they got to come work with us. We got such beautiful art. It was the wildest job too, because he's like, okay, what's my job? And we're like, we know you're very talented, but can you do art that looks like an angsty 13-year-old teenager drew two Final Fantasy boys kissing?
Right.
And he's like, yeah, I could do that. And so there's like beautiful art that he got to do fully in like the style. The cover is gorgeous, but then inside there's also like all this really fun. When he was younger, because he was a student placement, we're like, all right, have you heard about a yak back? And he would be like, no.
I saw that one in the beginning. I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
And I'm like, what about a hit clip? Could you draw us a hit clip? And so that was like his summer for a year.
Yeah. You're like, I need you to go and scroll through DeviantArt for a while and then come back to me.
Pick your favorite Power Ranger. Draw them. Like that was the kind of stuff we were doing, which was really fun. But this game only got to this point. And again, we got chosen for the GameFound RPG party. And we like being like, we got here because we were supported. We got to compensate, not a lot, but a bit of our design time on it. We had art provided. We got a stipend for this theater festival that got us media recognition. So all of these parts added up to what we have now. And I think like if you can compensate yourself for your design time, it's always nice. You're like,
yeah, definitely. Definitely.
But this kind of game will never
about
be.
like the co-op part of it, like what, why the decision to go that route. And what does that mean for your game, like both now and long term?
Oh, I thank you for the soapbox to talk about workaround.
We don't get to talk about this, like, because I really like talking about like the business side of things too, because I think that, we talk about it sometimes, like the RPG space has like a very low barrier to entry to like become a designer, right? Like anytime you start making homebrew or doing house rules or anything, you are engaging in design. Yeah. And so I think it is, even though we talk a lot about like the games themselves and the character creation and like things as players, I think the design part is really interesting to people and really, an important part of this industry and like the hobby and everything too. So I like talking about like the business side of it and how, how do you go from like, I have a cool idea to like, this is a real thing now.
Okay. The first thing, and I'm going to say this is personal. I'm not on behalf of the co-op. I did a project one year where I wanted to get 100 rejections. So the point is that you apply to things that you think are just above what you would get accepted for. So you apply to things that you think you're not qualified enough for, that you think you're going to get a rejection for. And your goal is actually to get 100 rejections. But in the process of doing that, like, you'll get things. And you'll get things that you thought
so you just
were out
like
of your
live like a straight white man for a while. We were like, I'm not qualified for this, but I'm going to try it.
That was my vibe. But I'd be like, oh, maybe I don't have, and I would just do it. And only things that I thought sounded fun or actually wanted. And I did that in grad school as a practice. And that's something I've carried on with me. Is like, I see something cool and fun. And I'm like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna apply for it. Like, we made a weird 90s chat room LARP and we're like, you know what? This theater festival wants it. This theater festival that has never done a LARP before, doesn't know what a LARP is. They want our game. And we applied for it and we got it. And that's,
but theater kids are perfect for a LARP. Like,
they are. They
Yeah.
are so good. Like, just to give some examples, like, we'll be like, I designed with a co-designer a LARP for UNICEF. So they had a post up being like, they wanted a workshop for a conference they were doing. And we're like, you don't want a workshop. You want a 45-minute LARP. That LARP is going to teach you about information poverty better than a workshop would. So those are kind of like on the business side stuff we do. Is we are just very enthusiastic. And the privilege we have is everyone in my co-op, we all have graduate degrees in game design. We're all like extremely well connected, which really helps. But we founded a co-op specifically because the games industry is really rough. And if you're working, I don't want to burn bridges, but if you're working in video games or in tabletop, right? If you're working for the biggest of the big names will treat you the worst because they need to accommodate shareholder opinion and like,
for sure. Like we've watched that happen with like so many big names that have been, sold out to private equity that like, it just like you work for a big name company on a big name game and you could be the lead designer on it. And they could be like, well, sorry, we've decided to go another direction,
Yeah. And things turn from art into how can this make me more money?
Yeah.
And then it just becomes a churn machine.
And that's something that we like feel much more able to control in a co-op. We're like, okay, we'll do like one contract with a really rich guy who we might not love. And then everything else we can just get ourselves like a basic living wage out of. And then we can afford to exist as like an artistic co-op. We can accommodate people's like accessibility needs. If you burn out and you need 6 months off, great, take them. Like, all these things that we couldn't do.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is, just if you're actually wanting to do something like this and you're like, I need to know how to make money. So the world is changing because the last year has been wild because we all know why. But like educational places, not-for-profits, they'll be like, we want a video game or a LARP that we can bring into our school to teach about like biodiversity or about, and so you can take those skills and make things that you still think are fun and cool. We did one about like power dynamics and relationships for sex ed classes, right? And you can actually find work doing that if it's something that interests you.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's so niche too that you don't even think about it, right? Like it's
that's like not something that you like went in on career day and you were like, what I'm going to do is I am going to make educational LARPs for UNICEF. That's
exactly. It's not that. But eventually you get a degree in LARP and you're like, what do I do now? Dear God.
Right.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't have even thought that you could get a degree in that. So,
Right. But it feels like a lot of those sorts of opportunities require, reach out and talk to people and just throw the seed of that idea out there. It's probably something they never thought of ever doing. And they're like, wait a minute, that sounds kind of cool.
Literally, if you go to our website, there's a section and it's called why you want a game instead of ... And you just go there. It's like why you want a game instead of like a boring lecture or why you want a game. This is not as like big money, but like you can design a LARP and hand it out as a wedding favor. Like why you want to like all of these different things that games are super cool and you've never thought they could fill this spot in the world, but they can. So.
Oh, yeah. There's like professional GMs that are going to these corporations and running these like motivational seminars.
Oh, yeah. People are always like looking for like employee development days, kind of, like things like that. And it's certainly like more interesting than like, oh, let's do an icebreaker. Let's
pass this ball around
same
in the
PowerPoint we've been doing.
Yeah,
for the last 30 years, whatever.
And then you do all that. And then you get to do a fun, weird thing on the side. Because you are like stable financially. So.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, so, you mentioned like people needing time off or having like different ability levels and, like needs levels and all of that kind of stuff. So like, does the co-op sort of allow you to kind of just put everything in the middle and then sort of like take as you need? Is that kind of the...
Yeah, we have, legally, we have an elaborate system of bylaws that determines like how work and pay gets spread out. But the way we work is we just have projects and you work on them. And then we have like other people who have our skills that we know. And so if I am like for 6 months, I need to step away, I'll step away and someone else can step in and take it. And then the co-op depending on our financial situation, will still continue to pay me as much as possible while I'm also out, right? So that, again, dependent. And the other thing about educational games is governments have to be funding education for that to happen. So that's, I don't know if that's the best advice to give people now. Like a year
like
or
in
two
America,
ago, I
not
would definitely give it. But like this year, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think it's interesting, even if that's not something that like in America, our government is really supporting right now. But like, it's interesting to see things done in other ways besides like that traditional, like self-funding kind of like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, pour all your money in, hope you make it back on Kickstarter, or, build up the ideas and hope that, somebody will fund it or something like that, which is, I think what a lot of us have been doing for.
Yeah, we went in with to our co-op. We have a zero debt policy, so we will only do things if they are funded. But we'll put our hours in, right? But we'll never we can't pay an artist unless we got a grant to pay an artist. That's kind of our philosophy. Right. So
yeah.
Oh, here. Sorry, I was going to say one of our secrets. We did one crowdfunding campaign before. Is we got a grant for marketing. And then we were like, oh, printing this tabletop game is our marketing. So we can do like creative stuff like that. They're like, do you need
that's neat.
$2,000 of printing money? And we're like, yeah, for marketing. And then we got to fund a print run of a game because it'll increase the word of mouth about our co-op if we have this stuff.
Right. Yeah. They can see like this thing 100%. Has our name on it and, gets our name out there and they know what we do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, let's steer the discussion towards Strangers on the Net and what we thought of how the character creation process went. And I'm curious, what did we think about this compared to other systems that we played and or created characters for?
So I guess like kind of two major thoughts here. Like the first one being that like we definitely made it harder on ourselves because we were like,
we did.
We didn't,
or easier.
Well, right. I mean, it could be, because like we did have a hard time coming up with like a mutual frame of reference, right? So we were like, let's make up our own thing, which you are right. On one hand is easier because anything that we said goes, we don't have to worry about like, well, that's not really how that works. Or like, can we fit this show into this narrative? Like, does it really work?
Episode 5 of season 4.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We could just be like, you know what? We decided in season 4, there's this cliffhanger and whatever. So, I will say that like, you can put in what you want, right? Like if you don't want to put like, I think we made that clear for our audiences, but in case it wasn't, you don't have to do it that way. Like you don't have to play it on hard mode and make up your whole story and, show and all that kind of stuff. If you want to just start with a property that already exists and pick characters from that, you can do that. That being said, I do love that it had room for us to just make our own thing because we wanted to, because that seemed more fun and more engaging to us. I love that like we as people had the buy-in on that. Like I like playing with groups of people who are like, sure, whatever, that will obviously depend on your group. You may not always have people who are like, I want to put in the mental effort to like come up with all of this, because that means every time we like do anything in character, we have to have thought about like, did that happen? And it requires a lot of yes and from anybody that we would be playing with. Like if I say something, you can't be like, well, that didn't happen on the show. Like prove it, like.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I do in back of my head, I'm like, it would be really fun to be like making a Wikipedia in tandem with playing this game for this show that doesn't exist.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because like us as people, especially me and you, Amelia, our fandom is quote unquote TTRPGs, right? Which doesn't really have the TTRPG
I can't wait
fandom.
for Dungeons and Dragons to fall in love with Rifts.
My character is the first edition of D&D.
But you can only play role-playing games that came out before 1999.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, gosh, because like I can see this game is like a commentary on fandoms, right? Like you put into it the amount of fervor that you have for the fandoms that you select, right? So if we went with like Star Wars, which is probably Amelia and I's like biggest overlap of knowledge of fandoms, either that or Lord of the Rings, maybe. Like we could probably get into a lot of the lore of actual Star Wars and the characters and the character combos and all that pretty easily. But I don't think that's like where our passion lies.
Yeah,
as
that isn't
people.
like where the fun for like you and I as people is. Yeah.
Like we could probably have fun with it. It's just, it's like, it's a little too like, I don't want to say railroady for us, right?
Yeah, like
just
playing
because
somebody
like
else's story. Yeah.
Right. But like I could see that's like the whole commentary in the fandom thing, right? Because like for us, our fanness is like a much like different level. We're not like in the thick of things. We're at the like overhead view of various fandoms through the lens of TTRPGs and stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think now you're getting more into like commentary on like playing the game and like fan fiction versus like the actual IP and like, you know, if you're playing in this RP server as characters that are actually in the show, like how far off script are you allowed to go before somebody's like, that's not how it would happen. Right. Yeah. Which definitely goes beyond the character creation part of this.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, I think I would have more fun with it, like having made our own characters in our own show. And, you know, just because I like the amount of creative license that allows. And I think for me personally, it's a lot less stress of like, did I get it right?
Right.
On the other hand, I think that has the potential to be a really key part of the game for some people of like, did I get it? You know, like, am I doing the fandom correctly? You know, that like, that is like an anxiety that I definitely remember being like on Star Wars message boards. And there were times where I was like, I don't think I know enough, you know? Right. And so,
well, and that sounds like part of the, like the side people process as well, right? Like if you're one of the observers of two other people in a scene together and they're like totally messing up the lore, you could be like in the OOC, what
like,
are they
oh my
doing?
God,
Like this is not how it worked out. And yeah.
Like and no, like that totally derailed everything for my character if these two are doing this. Like
if I was playing Han Solo.
Right. Yeah, he definitely would have shot first. And so Yeah. I think like on the other hand too, it's interesting because you are not making all that many decisions about anything ahead of time. You know, like if we hadn't established all of these things about, you know, our fandom, like we picked what was like the pivotal moment and all of that kind of stuff, like was also something we had to make up. Whereas, you know, if we were playing in an established fandom, we would be picking like a pivotal moment for our character from something that already exists.
From the fandom. Exactly.
So like that definitely left us with a little more freedom that way. But I think it's interesting that we talk a lot about like play to find out. And that, I mean, this is like 99.999% play to find out. Because like, what did you determine? Your age, your gender, your screen name, which character you like. Like not a lot beyond that, you know?
Yeah.
Like certainly not a lot of things with depth. Like,
yeah,
you know, like does my favorite emoticon really, you know, like, is that pivotal for my character?
That nice flavor, right?
Right.
And it does inform something about the character's personality, the true character's personality and the online persona that they're portraying, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's there's no stats to work off of, which is interesting from a TTRPG perspective, but expected from kind of a LARP perspective. And it's interesting to see
depending
kind of
on the
that
LARP.
blend.
Yeah.
I
do think it's like, it is very surface level. Like, so it leaves things very, very open that like you could go through character creation. And like, if we did all of that and then we like sat down to play a week later, like I could change my mind about a lot of things. without having to like make any changes on my character sheet, you know, like I could come back and be like, oh, you know what, I've completely rethought this character, but like my screen name and my emoticon and my, you know, like all of that are still pretty much the same. Because, you know, like my character from the fandom didn't change, you know, I just decided something different about Sarah or something, you know, like Allison is just like nodding through all of this. I know, like, this is always the section we come to this question and we're always like, dear guests, let us tell you about your game. This is like a very, always ends up being kind of a self-indulgent question, I think, where we just talk at our guests about their game. But I'm curious your thoughts on all of the things that we've said now.
So the thing I will say is that in most cases that we've done this game, we've pre-authored these characters for people because they've been at festival runs primarily.
Sure.
So we pre-author them and send them out. So it's been fascinating. And this is the first time I've watched someone create a fake world to play the game with. That has never been something that has been part of it. Ooh, and it's been fascinating.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Because we do, in the book, we're like, if you want to do your own world, here are the things you can do. It does take an extra session though, right? So it's like, logistically, you have to get together once before you do all that to create the fake show that you're going to do the characters in. But it's been really fascinating to watch because the exact same thing kind of happens, like you were talking about, Ryan. It is about your relationship to fandom and your relationship to media. So watching your characters filter their experiences through this fake TV show is really cool to see versus like people trying to filter their experiences through a real TV show. Because a lot of the times they'll, like if they're picking their pivotal moment, they'll pick like a pivotal moment that actually wasn't a pivotal moment for the character, but they like in their angsty teenager, they think was, which is interesting and says something, but they're forced to do it because they don't get to create like the perfect metaphor for who my character is, which is really interesting. It's been great to watch happen. Yeah,
it's just like, I think, you know, like I mentioned, like the flexibility that it offers a little bit is that like we could very much be like, these are the story beats that we want our people to hit.
Yeah.
So we wrote them into the show. You know, like I got to be like, oh, I want someone to miss me and care about me. So I wrote a character where that's an issue. You know, like I want to feel in control of my life and in charge of things. So I wrote a character into the show that is that way. You know, so I do think it would be like an interesting thought exercise to do it the other way, because I do feel like while it is more difficult to come up with things, and I think when we're actually like role playing, there's a bigger mental load because you have to like, there's nothing to draw on. I do think it would be difficult in a very different way to be like, oh, I have to pull from this existing thing and twist it to fit what I'm trying to do.
I like there are
Whereas right now, this does whatever I want.
There are two anxieties inside you. One about not knowing enough and one about having to come up with everything. Let them fight.
Exactly. So yeah, I think you're playing with different concepts almost. I don't want to say it's two different games, but I think you are playing two different kinds of situations, you know, like you're talking about like how you engage with the fandom and, you know, like that line between like fanfic and actual IP and, you know, like that kind of stuff where like we're never going to touch that because the whole thing is fanfic.
I'm going to say though, no matter what happens, you should be gossiping about each other's crushes. That should be consistent across this experience, regardless of anything else.
Yeah. Oh, and it absolutely will be. Like, yeah, I mean, I feel like we set that up pretty well for that to be like a problem.
Call to action.
Yeah, like that.
I really loved hearing about the differences with the workload with the co-op stuff that Allison is involved in. It's an interesting take on the TTRPG design process and working in tandem and together to kind of lift everybody else up at the same time is a wonderful business experience, I would imagine. It's really cool to see. I loved hearing about it and learning about more of the back-end businessy side of things in the industry. And this discussion was no exception to that. So I love this episode. I love the rest of the discussion. Next week, We've got the finale for this series, and it includes some really great fanfic, and I really hope you tune in to that as well. So before we let you go for the day today, though, we do have some calls to action. First up, if you missed our live stream for the Undying Bonds game design, that likely will be expired or soon to be expired by the time you hear this episode. I'm not sure when that will be taken off the Twitch channel. If you end up missing that replay, though, you will be able to access both the video replay and the audio of the session on our Patreon at the $5 and up level. This one is slightly more produced compared to the live stream replay, and it sets up everything else going forward for our Undying Bonds game design. We plan on streaming every third or fourth Wednesday of every month going forward. This is where the change to our schedule comes in. So our next planned live stream will be on August 27th at 6:30 p.m. Central U.S. time, and that will go until about 8 o'clock that night for 1.5 hours of game design for our Magical Girl meets Necromancer TTRPG Undying Bonds, right on the One Shot Twitch channel at twitch.tv/OneShotRPG. We were originally planning on doing this on the 20th, but life things take priority and we no longer had availability that date. If you want to keep up with the latest information on the streams, the best place to do that is in our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. We'll be putting server events with a link to the stream that folks can sign up for in order to get reminders of that and whenever we go live and all that sort of fun stuff. So aside from that, we would love it if you checked out the C3 Patreon at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. We are so very close to our $160 a month goal, which will let us hire someone to do monthly webpage updates to our site at charactercreationcast.com. This will let us add information to the pages that are dedicated to all of the games that we have covered on the show, including links to character sheets, links to the episodes, and more. If you are interested in helping out with this project, please reach out to us at contact.charactercreationcast.com. If you have experience with Squarespace hosting, that would be a huge bonus. In addition to that, as a thank you to everybody who contributed, we will be creating a unique enamel pin for all of our campaign level backers. It looks like we would be able to get a whole bunch of them to give to any future campaign level backers as well. And we are just a little over $5 away from that goal right now. So it's not very far away at all, and you could be the person to help get us there. If we can get past that and get to the $200 a month goal, not only will that unlock yearly subscriptions for our supporters at a good discount, it will also mean that we can afford to pay the new web admin a bit more every month to update the backlog of games on our site as well. This level is only 5 campaign level backers away, and it would be remarkable if we could get there before the end of the summer, which is quick approaching. Joining at the campaign level means that you get new stickers for every month that you are a patron, including one of every sticker we have on hand still. And right now, that total is over 25 stickers. You'll also get a set of C3 branded dice that are really great quality from Chessex. You'll get a personalized thank you card from the both of us, handcrafted by Amelia herself, as well as many other perks. This is all for $10 a month, and it will go a long way towards helping provide a one-stop shop for any of the games that we cover on the show. We also have tiers at the $5 level, which does get you the dice and the thank you card and our bonus episodes, as well as the $1 level that gets you various perks as well, like our occasional chit-chat episodes and bonus outtakes. So head on over to patreon.com/charactercreationcast to get all of the info. In addition to all of that, we do like to thank our current patrons every episode. Your support truly helps out a great deal, so let's do that right now. Thank you to Lieutenant DJG, aka Tyrannosaurus, and Eric Bonds. We couldn't do this without you. Daryl Holiday II, Shadim Cabal, and the Shyest Barbarian. Thanks for supporting our dreams. Benjamin Sweeney, Rob Fletcher, and Kevin Brown, we appreciate your support. Thank you. Tentacle Duck, John Adamus, and A3 Sketchpad, thanks for believing in us. Cole McCallum, Carlos Salazar, and Eric S., we can't thank you enough. We'll keep on trying anyway. Thanks to Ian Potmeyer, Liam G., and Brian Colm. So glad to have you here with us. Garden GM, Tanglefoot, and Blue Kryptonite, thank you all so much. We appreciate your support, Danny, Nicole Trainer, and Leah Murray. Thank you. Thank you to Kenning, Brian Kurtz, and Mark E. Fair. We couldn't do this without you as well. Drew Owen, Oz, and James McKinley, thanks for your continued support. Sean Metcalf, Robert, and Kevin Bates, thanks. And we are glad to have you here, Deadly Edley and Allison Cole, thanks for supporting. And thank you to all of our future patrons. If you want to join this phenomenal group of individuals, please head on over to patreon.com/charactercreationcast and help us out. And with more assistance, we'll be able to make those website upgrades to make exploring your favorite games that much easier. And if you want to join in this discussion with our hosts, some of our guests, and a bunch of fans, head on over to our Discord at discord.charactercreationcast.com. Finally, if you want to help us out in another way that doesn't require any money, you can leave a rating and review for our show on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or Podcast Addict. We will read every new 5-star review as we get them and as we both have a chance to record. That's all we have for today's episode. Join us here next week when we get into the finale of the discussion with some truly inspired fanfic. You won't want to miss this one. It is so good. Until then, take care, everyone. Stay safe, drink some water, maybe do update your antivirus, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for part 1 of this discussion series. We'll be back in part 2, picking up right where we left off.
Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at CreationCast, or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, exclusive merch, and much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.